You can bring it down to you, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tierra Stellivan, and I'm just a regular human being out here trying to make it, and someone who really does believe in the city of Springfield and this council. And I came to share an essay I wrote called "I Can't Hear You Over the Sound of Being Free." I learned all my lessons the hard way, so on April 19th, what could have been a verbal warning led to me receiving a $168 citation for my plate light being out, finding out about a warrant, and my first time going to jail. I actually went to 2 different jails in 1 week. But from April 19th through 22nd, I stayed in Sangamon County Jail, waiting for Logan County to come get me in regards to a warrant stemming from old traffic violations. The whole time I was on the way there thinking, I cannot believe this is happening to me. I'm going to jail. I've spent my whole life trying to avoid this exact situation, working hard to break cycles and avoid the kind of situations that lead people into the system. So I was in shock, and I went through every emotion. But all of those feelings quickly disappeared when I was placed in a cell that felt like it was made for like 2 people, but it was 6 women inside. So I was the 7th. 3 women were sleeping on the floor. One was an elderly disabled woman. The air conditioning in the facility was broken, so the cell was nearly unbearable because of the heat. And the only air was coming from a fan that was sitting outside the door blowing through the check hole. The tension was already high, and after hours, and for some of us days of being in those conditions, an argument broke out between a woman who was barely even 5 feet tall and a woman that was like 5'10", but it was so hot, she was like arguing while laying down. The deputies heard the commotion going on. 3 people ran over and were threatening to send tasers into the cell, and it was 7 of us in the cell, so I was like confused as to why that would be the immediate option. The consequences of yelling out the door at the officers were then removing the fan and closing the chuck hole. I kept that in the back of my mind the whole time, but I couldn't be quiet any longer. So I got in an argument with the sheriffs about why they would threaten to tase us when 5 of us weren't even doing anything. One of the girls that was arguing was laying down. I just feel like, that de-escalation word could have been used. I could go on and on, but since I'm running out of time, I want to leave y'all with this. There was a girl in there that everybody knew something was seriously wrong with. On top of that, she had been unmedicated for 4 whole days. When the sheriff came to get her for her transfer, she was immediately triggered. And in the middle of her completely spazzing out, a sheriff yelled out, "Sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of being free," as he was escorting her out in a wheelchair. And that imagery will live with me forever. I witnessed treatment that I can only describe as cruel. Human beings sleeping on the floor on 1-inch thick mats. Physically and mentally disabled citizens going days without needing medication and seeing a nurse. And people struggling with addiction being referred to by derogatory slurs. I am no stranger to the injustices of the jail and prison system in our country. And I promise you, this is not even a half, and I hate that I'm not put together enough to even speak. But being in that cell, I felt so powerless, watching some of our most vulnerable citizens being treated like they are nothing. And it is something I will never forget, and I will never be the same after going to jail. Don't get me wrong, criminal behavior, should have consequences. Accountability matters. But basic human dignity should not disappear the moment someone enters a jail cell. The people our law enforcement officers come in contact with the most are people that are often battling mental illness, addiction, homelessness, trauma, or simply difficult circumstances. And what if that was someone that you love? What if you knew the story and the trauma behind that mugshot? To our esteemed council and to all of us who still believe in humanity, how can we sleep at night knowing people are being treated like this? I have not had a good night's sleep since I left Sangamon County Jail. To the sheriff who said, "Sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of being free," I ask, how could you ever be free when you are a part of a system with so much blood on its hands? God bless y'all. Thank you.
Ma'am, my chief of staff is there. He's going to get some information from you so we can